Hello, YouTube, and all you wonderful fuzz butts out there who want to learn how to put an avatar into Vrchat. My name is Iron Gut, and it is long since time that I made a tutorial for everybody. Helping me out with this, asking questions and learning as I show you guys as well. We've got Charles the Charmeleon here,
Yo.
and we've got Richie as well. In fact, Richie is the one whose model we're going to be putting into the game today.
Hello, guys.
Yes. This is Richie, by the way. He is a Riolu with a fantastic buttocks. And we're going to take his FBX file and turn it into an avatar. So, first things first, what you guys need to have in order to put an avatar in game, you need to have a VRChat account, obviously. We're going to assume you've already done that. You need to download the right version of Unity in order to set up an avatar. That is currently Unity 2019.4.31F1, or just download the Creator Companion on the VRChat website. Both work just fine. You would install the VRChat SDK if you go the latter route. If you're using the Creator Companion, it does that automatically. Nice and easy. And then you're just going to drag and drop the FBX file into the project area here. And that should be all you need to do to get caught up with where I am. So first things first, before we put this file into a scene and start setting it up there, we need to actually set it up as a humanoid. And the way we do that is we click on it in the project area, and in the inspector panel, it shows up this set of 4 menus here. We're going to set it, first of all, in the models section to read-write enabled yes, and set its blend shape normals to import. Those are always important to have. And set its animation type here under rig from generic to humanoid. That way Unity and VRChat will recognize this as having, legs, arms, human-like features, as opposed to just being a box or some other inanimate object. And when you click apply, it'll do the importing here to make sure that everything does that way. And we're going to go to configure while we're on that same humanoid screen. And that's going to bring up, when we click the configure avatar button here that shows up, a screen that shows, this skeletal figure here on the right. Now, usually with a model file, everything's going to map automatically. It's going to recognize what bone is the hip bone, spine, etc., etc., etc. And if you've commissioned a model or made it, you'll have your skeleton set up correctly. If not, that's a whole other thing. Look up for YouTube tutorials about how to do that. But just know that this is where you're going to go to set up the actual bones as, this bone is the chest bone, this bone is the arm bone, etc., etc. So if it all looks good, which it does in this case, the head bones, jaw, it's detecting the feelers as eyes, so we got to delete those. But the head is the head, the neck is the neck, the jaw is the jaw, hands all set, body all set. And also make sure that it says the chest is optional, but VRChat likes to throw a fuss if you don't have a chest bone mapped. So map the chest bone and the way you would do that, by the way, if you ever need to map a bone in here, you find the bone here in the hierarchy. In this case, here's the chest bone. Drag it and drop it right into the slot. And that's how you map a bone. You're going to click apply and then done. And your model file is now set up to be recognized as a human or a humanoid with, working limbs. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to make a scene if we haven't already. And what we do is in the project area, right click, create up top here. We create a scene. Name it whatever. I'm naming mine Riolu. because that's what it is. And you drag and drop that scene here into the hierarchy to open it. And then we're going to drag the model into the scene. Okay, why is it so zoomed in? Let me close that and reset it real quick. Oop, that is a butt. There we go. The default camera, of course, is placed exactly there. Where else would it be? Okay, if ever that sort of thing happens in Unity, where you find yourself unable to zoom in by scrolling or move the camera or anything, just right-click on the Scene tab, close it, and open a new tab by going Add Tab, Scene, and it'll give you a new tab that's completely fresh. Alright. So here is the model here. Now, the first thing that you're going to want to do is make sure that it's scaled about right. So what you're going to do, we need a reference point for that, and that's where we're going to click here in the hierarchy in an open space, create a 3D object, cube. When you do that, you'll see a cube pop up. Now these cubes are set to be 1 meter by 1 meter by default. So right now this Ryulu is actually very, very large. You wouldn't know that unless you did this scaling test. So let's also real quick move that down to the 0, 0, 0 so that it's centered. And to fix Ryulu's scale, we'll go here to the scale value by clicking him, and under the inspector, under scale, we can set the value. For example, 0.1 is probably what we need. That'll make him... How tall is he supposed to be? Richie?
I'm not sure, but I think
Feet or meters, doesn't matter which. Just, I can convert it in my head.
meters. Probably like 0.75.
So 3/4 of a meter tall then.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
Also, it's not showing me up the skills and info of this.
the skills and info? How do you
It's
mean?
only showing this.
Oh,
The,
you're still in the configure screen. Go ahead and go to. Do you have another inspector open? Let's see. What Charles is having issues with is that sometimes when you do the whole configure screen thing, it'll get stuck in this mode, and in order to do that, you need to, unfortunately, sort of. I don't want to say start over, but you need to kind of just drag and drop again in order to reset things. Yeah, just go ahead and
drag and drop.
drag and drop the file into the scene.
This one.
Yep. Yeah. And is it still? Did you accidentally hit the lock button? Because if you ever want to lock a screen, by the way, this is the lock icon up here. That when you click that, you can then go clicking other things, and it won't change the screen until you unlock it again.
Oh, oh, oh. Never mind.
There we go.
There it is.
So he's figured out what was wrong. So this Ryulu is supposed to be 3/4 of a meter tall right now. So let's scale him down even further. Let's see what 0.02 does. Yeah, 0.02 looks like that would be about right. That makes him about 3/4 of a meter tall. And we're going to also now notice one other thing. Once we delete the cube, This grid in the background that shows up when you use this tree here to look directly from the front, side, or top, these boxes are all 1 meter. And the ground is this level here. So right now, if we were to upload this avatar just like this, he would be walking in under halfway buried in the ground. So to fix that, we're going to open up the model here like I did. Look for his rig, which in this case is called meta rig. Sometimes it's called armature, sometimes it's called something different, but it's always the one with the drop down. And we're going to find his hip bone. We're going to move it up until such point as his feet are lined up with the ground. And that will fix that problem. Also, if you...
All right.
Yep. Okay.
Let me see.
So to set things up in the most basic of ways, we are going to do just one thing, and that's add component here. After we select, the most basically the file here in the hierarchy, and in the inspector we go to add component, and we search in the search box for VRC, and VRC avatar descriptor is the first one on the list usually. You click on that and it adds this whole thing right here. Now, the VRC avatar descriptor is what tells VRchat this is an avatar, it's what's going to allow it to be uploaded. It's usually very straightforward. You can see under view position, when you edit that, that shows where the eyes are going to be. So you move that to where the eyes are. You can zoom in right there, and then return when you're done. If when you click on edit, an arrow box doesn't show up that you can move, then
I have a problem.
Yeah.
The avatar descriptor is not. Well, I press the edit, but it doesn't let me to.
It doesn't show up an arrow box here like this.
Nope.
That's totally fine. You can just adjust the position manually by putting in these numbers as to where
Oh,
the
there it
eyes
is.
would be. Yeah, that. Yep. He did have an arrow box after all, ladies and gentlemen. But that's okay. If for some reason you don't, usually it'll just be a gray ball instead, and you can move around that gray ball by punching in different numbers. And again, these are in meters. So you would judge as to about where the eyes would be, and in this case it looks like it's about 0.6 meters off the ground. So we would set 0.6 meters, and that would put it about where we want. The next thing is the movement of the mouth, which usually we just under lip sync click auto detect, and it'll usually detect things. In this case, it detected it halfway. Let's see. Do you have a... Oh, no, you actually don't have a blend shape for that. That's okay. In this case, it detected the wrong thing. It thinks there's a blend shape to move the mouth, but there isn't. It's instead of bone. So we just gotta switch this to jawbone. And then back here under the hierarchy, expand all of the skeleton until we get to the head bone and the jaw, in this case upper jaw. Again, this is where locking will come in handy, so that when you accidentally click
What
something,
bone are we using?
we are using the upper jaw in this case, which you can see if I were to rotate the upper jawbone. You can see it moving the mouth
All right.
like that. So let's undo that. So we drag and drop it. Once we've set the lip sync mode from jaw flat blend shape to jaw flat bone, we just drag the actual jawbone into that slot.
Mm-hmm.
And when we do that, it sets a couple values here underneath. We drag it
Yep.
in once again, and then we can edit those values. So the
All right.
closed looks like that. That's correct. The open now, we adjust it so that it's the mouth open position.
All
So
right.
we click on preview, adjust it via the rotator, and there you go. That'll be your mouth opening and closing.
Oh,
Yes. Pretty simple. Other avatars will have blend shapes that are for different vowel sounds. Others just have a mouth open and closed blend shape. Others will have this jawbone feature. Those are the main three that you'll encounter. In this case, we had a jawbone. They're all pretty straightforward. If you had a blend shape, you would just choose the appropriate blend shape.
um, I found that the lower jaw is the actual mouth, but if you see my screen, you can see what I mean.
Yeah. In this case, this is a bit of a unique model in that the jaw movement is moving the upper jaw instead of the lower jaw. Um, oh, there is a lower jaw bone as well, though. You could just drag in the lower jaw if you want to have that be the bone instead,
Mm-hmm.
and then you
Because
preview.
the upper jaw was looking kind of weird.
Okay. So either way, you fit it into the slot, and then you adjust it by clicking on the preview button and rotating it to the right way. So there we go. There's the Riolu's mouth opening and closing now.
There it is.
Yep. Now for blinking, the eye look. We enable that. Let's just check and see first if there's a blink blend shape. So we're going to the head shape here by clicking on it. Okay, it's Richiulu. We're going to unlock that so that we see what's here. Oh, you do actually have some blend shapes of the mouth, like the O and the U, but just those two, so we'll just have it be the jawbone, and that'll be it for now. Look for a blinking blend shape. Looks like eye closed left, eye closed right. Dang, they're not together. It's okay. So this model doesn't have a blink set, so we'll just deal without blinking for now. Uh, I'll show you how to fix that later on, but that would require actually opening it up in Blender and modifying the model. So we'll let that be for now. If he were to have that though, it would be under eyelids here on the Vrchat on the VRC avatar descriptor. You would choose eyelid type blend shapes. You would drag and drop the part that has, you drag the head
Sorry.
portion in there and choose the right blend shape. In this case, eye closed left, so when you blink, you'll just wink the left eye. Set the other two to none, and that would be a setup for a blink. But because we don't want to do that, we're going to have the eyelid type be none. And with that, that's the most basic of basics to setting up an avatar. At which point, you would go up here. We're going to be doing a little bit more here, but if you were to just want to do that, you would then go up here to the VRChat SDK and show the control panel. Now, I'm logged in already as, well, actually not as myself. I'm logged in as somebody who I had previously commissioned me. and you would go to the builder here once you log into your account, and you would go down. Well, first off, you would have to see. In this case, the build and publish button, which is the button that I was going to mention, is grayed out because this is a common thing that happens. The avatar has bitmap textures without streaming maps enabled. Just click autofix on that. It's a setting on the textures that just don't worry about it. It autofixes it, and then the button will be regular. Yeah, all you need to do is just click build and publish for Windows, and when you do that, it'll start assembling the avatar. Takes a couple seconds usually to do this. Just let the program run. While I'm waiting to show all you YouTubers this, I'm gonna explain the advanced things that we're gonna. Oh, it's compiling things now. Good. The advanced things that I'm gonna set up on this avatar for Richie here is that you can see he's got clothing. We're gonna make toggles so that clothing can be turned on and off using the emote wheel, and also there's a blend shape that makes him grow or shrink in terms of, I believe, thickness, which we'll set up as well via a slider. But okay.
And now I got 3 errors.
The errors you don't really need to worry about unless the build and publish button is grayed out and won't let you do it. Remember to hit the auto fix on the top one, and then that should fix the grayed out button.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Here is the build and test.
Yep. So build and test makes a local version that you can open up in Vrchat, and nobody else can see it but you. That's good for testing out your avatar to make sure that things are working before you actually upload it. But you know, unless you're doing more complicated things, you don't need to usually do that. And on this screen, of course, once I've hit build and publish for Windows, you can then name the avatar, YOLO. You can set it to public or private, and you click on the above information is accurate, and it'll allow you to upload. You can also create a thumbnail via moving around the camera in the scene here, so that the camera is actually showing the avatar. Zoop, zoop. There he is. And you can do things to the camera, like make the background a solid color instead. You can choose what that color would be using the color selector here. And you can also change the lighting by adding lights or just modifying the existing directional light. That directional light is the sun, by the way. So there you go. That's a much nicer look. And all that, you go back to the game mode, and that, of course, sets up the thumbnail. And then you can click upload. I'm not going to click upload yet because we've got other stuff to do, of course. But so long as the play button is still playing, you can do whatever you want to the avatar. You can pose it by doing things like changing the values of the bones to make it so that they're looking different directions or whatever. And all of that will only affect things on the thumbnail. When you unclick the play or go through with the upload, it'll reset the avatar back to the way it was before you clicked build and publish. So, for right now, I'm going to unclick play, and we're going to go back to editing the avatar again. As you can see, it's reset. No longer is he looking in a weird direction and bending backwards. So, that's your basic avatar stuff. To make an avatar that actually has controls and options, this is going to require a little bit of extra stuff. First, let's do the easy thing, dynamic bones. Richie wants some dynamic bones on this guy. Now, the dynamic bones kit is pretty easy to get a hold of. It technically costs money, but it's been leaked in so many different places that just a quick search on Google for VRChat dynamic bones and you'll find it. You can pay the people if you want, or VRChat now has their own version of dynamic bones called Phys bones. Same thing. Basically, the way to get a Phys bone or a dynamic bone working is that you would go to the bone that you want. In this case, we're going to add some dynamic bones onto the feelers here, which is right feeler. Yep. Which we're also going to have pointing down a little bit. And the left feeler, we're going to have it pointing down. A quick tip. If you want to have when you're rotating something, if you want to have it not just, free form, but have it snapping to like set amounts, you hold the control button as you're doing it. So this, as you can see, snaps it to 15 degrees, 30 degrees, 90 degrees. It's a neat little trick. Once you've got the bone positioned where you want it to be by default, all you need to do is go to add component here with the bone selected, of course, and search for dynamic bone or Phys bone and click to add one. Under root, that's the actual bone that this is going to affect. You drag and drop the bone in there, and it'll show a white line now, meaning that that bone is now going to be dynamic. And that's it. You've set up a dynamic bone. You can mess around with the settings like dampening, elasticity, stiffness, and inertia to make it wiggle more or less, but it's a little bit finicky to understand how these 3 or 4 things play with each other. Just mess around with them if you want in order to get a feel for them. If not, that's okay. The dynamic bones base setting usually works great too. So once again, there you go. The feeler on the right hand side now has a dynamic bone too. We're also going to set one up on the tail. Add component, dynamic bone. Once again, drag and drop onto the bone. Now, a quick note. It's usually good practice to add the actual dynamic bone here onto the bone that you're making dynamic, so that way it's easier to find. But it doesn't have to be added there. You can add it to anything. Some people like to add the dynamic bones onto the body and then just drag in the bone that they want to affect. In this case, the butt will make a dynamic bone like that. So now the left butt cheek here is dynamic, and that setting is actually on the body instead of on the actual butt bone. It's all a matter of what you want to do. You can also control select multiple bones at a time and add dynamic bones. Of course, you just need to individually drag and drop their bone into the root. But yeah, as you can see now, we've got 2 butt bones, the tail, and the 2 ear flaps here. That's how you set those guys up. Let's see, what else? That pretty much covers dynamic bones. Oh, also, if you have VRChat also has a tool under the drop down here, utilities, convert dynamic bones to Phys bones. You can click that as well, and it'll change. Whoop. Here we go. If you have the avatar itself like this highlighted, it'll work. Otherwise, it won't. There we go. So now it's kind of converted those dynamic bones into Phys bones, which work for Quest as well. Regular dynamic bones don't work for Quest users. Phys bones do. So next thing we're going to set up is how to toggle something. Namely, let's get these things like the jacket, the socks here. Get these guys to toggle on and off. The first step is to toggle them off. So let's go ahead and get them all toggled off by default. Gloves. And to toggle things on and off, you select them here in the hierarchy, and over here in the inspector, the top leftmost checkbox. You check them on or off. That's how you toggle them manually. What we need to do, though, is set up something to control that allows VRChat to control whether they're on or off, and that's done via animations. The first thing we need to do is right-click here in the project area and create an animation. This one is going to be for, let's see, let's make this socks on. Let's make another one for the jacket. Jacket on. Let's see, what else have we got? We've got a shirt. Shirt on. And you know, just for the purpose of making this quick, I'm only going to do those 3 for now, just to show you guys how this goes. And how this is going to work, the animation, we're going to have it set so that they're off by default, and we're just going to be having the animation turn it on. We don't need to make an animation file for off, because they'll be off by default. The next thing we do once we have these animations is we make what's called an animator controller. Now the controller is where the programming happens. Don't worry when I say programming, you don't need to like learn to read code or anything. It's just, trust me, it's easier than it sounds. Go to create animator controller and name it FX, because that's the layer that we're going to be working on, is the effects layer. If you'll notice, when I click back here to the avatar descriptor, under playable layers here, when I click customize, there's all these different layers here. These are your different animator controller layers. I know that sounds complex, but basically the effects layer is where you're going to do everything that you need to control manually. Things like the action layer control dances, the base layer controls how you walk around. The only one you should worry about is effects until you've learned a whole lot more. So what you do is you click on that to reveal its slot, and you drag the controller that you just made into it. And then to make it easier to edit, also drag it right onto the base of the avatar. Boom. That makes it a lot easier to edit. Now you're going to go, if you don't already have an animator tab here, you're going to need to open that up by going to Window, Animation, Animator, and that'll open up an animator tab. This is where all of your programming is going to happen. So once you've clicked on the effects controller, it opens it up in the animator. There's two things that we need to do first. We need to go to the parameters and set up the parameters that control all the things that we're going to do. So, the parameters is basically the code words that the program is, that VRChat is going to read to know what's happening and what animations to play. In this case, they come in 4 types: the float, the integer, the boolean, and the trigger. For now, a quick explanation of how they work. The float is any number that is between 0 and 1. So if you have something that's going to be like, that goes between 0 and 100%, you're going to use float values. The integer is any whole number, like 1, 2, 8, 16, 48, 256. That's an integer value. A boolean is either 0 or 1, on or off. So that's going to be what you want to use for most toggles. You know, the shirt, for example, can be either off or on. So we're going to create a bool, and we're going to name it shirt bool. That will be what's going to control the shirt. We're going to make one for everything that we want to control. For example, the shirt, we got the socks, so we need a socks bool. We're going to make a bool for the jacket. Call it jacket bool. And those are the 3 that I'm going to set up for now. So now, once we've got those set up, we go back to layers. Oh yeah, I forgot to explain. But we go to the parameters here on the animator tab in order to make those parameters. By clicking on the plus sign, and that's where you create those parameters. Anyways, we go back to the layers tab now, and we drag and drop whichever of the animations that we made before in here. For example, we want this layer to control the shirt, so we're going to drag and drop shirt. And we're going to create another state that's empty by right-clicking an open space here. Create state empty. And this will be named shirt off. And now to set it so that it controls between the two, we're going to make this, we're going to right-click on the shirt on animation and make transition. We connect that to shirt off, and then we do the same thing from shirt off to shirt on. So now we have a set of transitions that go from one to the other. We click on one, and we need to change its settings real quick. It's going to have an exit time of 0, a duration of 0 right here, and we are going to turn off has exit time. To quickly explain what these do, the exit time means that it only tries to look at it. The exit time, okay. You know, don't worry about it. Don't worry about exit time. These are animations that play. The exit time means that it only tries to go from one animation to another once an animation is finished playing. That's what an exit time is. These animations are only going to be 1 frame long, so we don't want there to be an animation exit time because it'll never reach it. But anyways, the important thing that we need to set up once we've set those both to 0 is the conditions. Under the conditions here, we add a plus sign here, and we choose which bool controls the animation. In this case, this is the shirt one, so we go shirt bool, and because we want it, because right now we've got the animation going from on to off, we want it to do that when the shirt bool value is false. So when the shirt is false, it goes to the shirt off layer, or to the shirt off animation. Makes sense, right? And then we do the exact same thing for the transition from shirt off to shirt on. We set the exit time, duration both to 0, turn off the exit time, and set the shirt bool to true. So that way now, whenever the shirt is off and we want to turn the shirt on, we check to make sure whether shirt bool is true. If it is, we turn the shirt on. So that's how you set up a layer to control a toggle. We're going to do that 2 more times here by clicking the plus sign to add a new layer. This layer will be for the socks. We need to once we create a layer, go ahead to its settings here and make its weight 1. Otherwise, it won't do anything. And of course, we drag and drop the socks animation in here. In an open area, right-click, create state empty to create the off version. In this case, socks off, we're naming it. And once again, we make transitions between the two of them. 0, 0, turn off exit time, and create the socks bool false. And on this one, 0, 0, off. And the socks bool true. So now when the socks bool is true, it goes from off to on. When it's false, it goes from on to off. One last one for the jacket. We set its setting to weight 1. Jacket on. Create jacket off. Right click to make transition. Make transition. 0, 0. False. And 0, 0. Jacket bool equals true. And there we go. Now we actually need to record those animations. It's pretty simple. We just go ahead here and click on the base of the avatar again in the hierarchy. And we go to an animation tab. Any animation tab will do. If you don't have one open, just go ahead and right click Add Tab, Animation. And you'll see when you have the avatar highlighted like that, it shows a drop down of all of the animations that you have on that animator controller. In this case, we have jacket on, shirt on, and socks on. So I'm going to quickly lock this screen so that I don't click somewhere else and accidentally change it. And we're going to hit this record button here. So we're now recording for shirt on. All we need to do is go to the shirt that we want to turn on and toggle it on. Boom. Now you can see that the shirt has shown up here in the animation with a checkbox. With its checkbox on, that means it's turned on. Simple. We can stop recording that now. And that's the shirt animation done. Same thing with the jacket animation now. We hit record, go to jacket, turn it on, and now that animation is recorded. Go to socks, and same thing. The socks we record, and that's it. The socks now turn on and off. So that's all the programming done, but you wouldn't upload just yet because there's no actual button to turn it on and off in game yet. That's what we're going to make now. If you click back on the avatar in the hierarchy again, and you look at under the expressions here, it says customize. You click on that, and then you'll have menu and parameters. We need to make a menu file and a parameters file.
Something happened on my.
What's going on here?
It's not showing up the model.
Zoom out. You might be zoomed in too much.
Um, my mouse scroll is a little messed up.
Oh
I
boy.
cannot zoom in and zoom out with the mouse. Is there any hotkey to zoom in and zoom out?
I believe page up and page down, but I'm not 100% sure. Nope, that doesn't do it. Whoop. The arrow keys do. Well, the arrow keys do that.
Oh.
There you go.
Wait.
Okay, you're still recording.
What is doing this?
Yes. You're still recording or previewing the animation. Yeah, there you go.
Oh.
When you're recording your animation, it will go into this pose. Don't worry about that. Just go ahead and when you're done recording, uncheck preview as well to get it out of that pose.
Oh.
Yep.
All right.
So now that you're out of preview mode, we need to again go to the avatar descriptor, and under expressions, we're going to need to make a menu file and a parameters file. So back here inside of the project folder, in an empty area, we right click, create, and we go up top to Vrchat, avatars, expression parameters, and expression menu. We need one of each. The parameters file right there. Right click, create, Vrchat, menu. So the parameters, as you might imagine, we've already made something called parameters here with shirt bool, socks bool, jacket bool. We need to duplicate that in the Vrchat parameters file. So when you click on it in the inspector, it shows up this screen. It should have 3 things already in it: the VRC emote, face blend horizontal, face blend vertical. Don't worry about those. Just leave them as they are. You're going to add a new one and copy all of those parameters that you made in the animator here in their own slots. Make sure they match exactly. So shirt bool, I typed with a capital S and a capital bool. I need to make sure that those capitalizations are the same. I also need to make sure that the type is selected the same. So I select bool. Whether it default, now the other things here, default, saved, and synced. The synced you don't really need to worry about. Just make sure that that's checked. Saved, you can uncheck if you want it to reset to default every time you load the avatar. But if you want it to save between, when you turn on a different avatar and come back, you have the saved checkboxed. And the default, of course, is what is it normally set to. In this case, we want the shirt to start turned off, so we're going to leave that unchecked. We add 2 more, one for the socks and one for the jacket. And that's the parameters file set up for now. It's pretty simple. And then we go to the menu file. We click it here in the project folder, and in the inspector we get this. Now, when we add control, it's going to add a new thing here. We're going to name this jacket on off. or jacket toggle if we want to be, fancy about it. And we're going to change its parameter. Whoop. Oh, I forgot a step real quick. You notice that there are no parameters in its drop down yet because we didn't add the file to the descriptor yet. You need to click here in the avatar and drag and drop that parameters file into the correct slot, which is all the way down under expressions, parameters. You drag and drop the parameters file right into that slot. And do the same thing for the menu file. You drag that into the menu slot. Now, when you open up the menu again and you choose the parameters, it'll have the parameters that you made selectable. So since this is going to be the jacket toggle, we're going to have it control the jacket bool. And the type, we don't want it to be a button because we want it to stay on when we click it. So we're going to make it into a toggle instead. The button is, as you would imagine, you push it and you can hold it down. And as long as it's held down, it sets that parameter to on. But as soon as you unclick, as soon as you let go, it turns it back to 0. The toggle, you click it once, it turns to on. You click it again, it turns to off. The radial puppet is the next one that you're going to worry about, and that's for creating things that have a slider. We haven't made any of those yet. That's going to be next. And the submenu is the other one you want to worry about. That's for if you have more than 8 things that you want to control, you're going to need to create submenus. That's a little bit advanced, but so I'm not going to get into that because we're not doing more than 8 things on this avatar. So we're just going to set it to toggle, and that's that. The icon, you can create a PNG file to give it an icon if you want, but you don't need to. So we're adding a control for the jacket. That's done. Socks toggle. We set it to a toggle and change its parameter to the socks bool. Now you'll be able to control the socks. And one last one is the shirt. And shirt bool. And now all of the menu files to control these 3 things are set up. And that's how you create toggles. When you build and publish this now, it'll upload and you can enter the emote wheel, and you'll see the 3 options pop up for the jacket bool, the socks bool, and the shirt bool. Now, one more thing that we're going to set up is the slider. We're going to create a slider for, let's see. What do we want to do? Let's do the arms muscle. That seems simple enough. So as you can see here on Riolu's body, we have a couple different sliders, blend shapes that we can choose from. The arms muscle is the simplest one here. We can also do calves bigger. We'll for the sake of things, we'll do all 3 of these. Pecs bigger, arms muscle, and calves bigger, and we'll call it muscle. We'll control all 3 of those things at once. So the way we do that now is we're going to create another parameter, this time a float value. We're going to call it muscle float. And it, instead of being a bool, is going to be a float. We set that up here in the parameters file and in the animator file. Make sure that they match. Muscle float, capitalized, and 1 word. Muscle float, capitalized, 1 word. Float. Yep.
Oh, wait. Oh, there you go.
Yep. Then we create a new layer here. Call it muscles. And make sure that it's set to 1. And in the animator, we're going to do something different. We're going to right click in an open space, create state from new blend tree. The blend tree is what allows you to create sliders. Now, in here in the project, we need to create 2 animations this time. One for the minimum value that the slider is going to have, and the other for the maximum value that it's going to have. So, muscle minimum, and create an animation, muscle maximum. And now when you double click the blend tree here, you'll see that it's controlled by the parameter muscle float. You add a motion field and add another motion field.
Where did you went?
Sorry.
Oh,
A
oh,
double
there it is.
in the blend
Oh,
tree that we made. You double
oh,
click it to get into the blend tree,
all right.
and then you just click on that the actual blend tree rectangle here, and in the
Mm-hmm.
inspector you'll get this screen where you add the motion fields here using the plus sign. You're going to create 2 of them. One is going to be 0, and the other one's going to be for 1.
Mm-hmm.
As you can imagine, the minimum gets dragged into the 0 slot, and the maximum gets dragged into the 1 slot. So that
Mm-hmm.
now we're going to record for so now and basically what this does is it allows it to go between the 2 of them in a smooth transition. So now we need to record those 2 animations. We go ahead back to the scene and to the avatar file. Go to our animation tab once again, and you'll see the animations are here. Muscle minimum. We're going to record and make sure, and we record whatever we want for the minimum to be. So in this case, we want them to be 0, 0, and 0.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, the animation can record more than one thing. So as you can see, it's recording the body shape on the body, but we can also have, if we had it on the shirt, for example, it doesn't have it, but we can also record it to say on any. A lot of other things will have. Blah, 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 blah. Sorry, let me gather my thoughts real quick. It can record anything you set. So we can have it those 3 on the body set to 0, and if the shirt also had a shape, we could set it to record on the same animation. Okay. But that's all set now. That's the minimum size. So we stop the recording and the preview and go to the maximum size, and we hit record, and then we record it with those 3 values all turned up. So those 3 get turned up to maximum, and that's it for that. Stop the recording and the preview, and that is the programming all set up for the blend tree. And then in the menu file, sorry about that, here in the VRC expressions menu, we need to make a controller for it. So we add control. We'll name this one muscle amount, and set its type, instead of a button or a toggle, set its type to radial puppet. and you'll see a new type of parameter comes in, a parameter rotation. That's the one you set. You don't set the parameter to muscle float, you set the parameter rotation to muscle float. Because the parameter just sets things to either 0 or 1. The rotation allows you to have a slider that goes between 0 and 1. And once you've got that float set up, that's all you need to do. That will now give you the slider control in game. You're going to now build and publish for Windows. And yeah, that's about it. That's how you set up a slider and toggles on an avatar for VRChat. Any questions?
Well, I was a little bit lost on the part of where you were doing the dynamic bounce.
Oh, okay. We can go over that again. All you need to do to set up a dynamic bone is open up the actual bone skeleton on the avatar here in the hierarchy. Find the bones that you want to make dynamic. In this case, let's see. I've already got all the bones. Do you have any hair bones? No, you don't. Oh well. That's okay. We'll make your yeah, we'll just redo the tail.
Oh.
So I'll just remove that component real quick. So you go to the bone that you want to make dynamic, in this case the tail, and you go to add component and search for either dynamic bone or Phys bone. In this case, dynamic bone. Click on that to create one. And then the root here, the root slot, that's where you just drag and drop the bone that you want to make dynamic into it.
Oh. So is this the same for the other parts that I want to be dynamic?
Exactly. You do this for each bone that you want to make dynamic. You add component, dynamic bone, and you just drag and drop the bone that you want to make dynamic into the root slot.
All right. Let me see.
So now you'll have a jiggly leg in this case. But since we don't actually want that, that is something that I discovered a while back was it's really, really funny sometimes if you make a dynamic bone and put the spine as the dynamic bone. Because then you just walk around like a wacky waving inflatable tube man. Just, whoa! I think they patched that out though at some point, but for a while it was glorious. But yeah, you can take any bone and make them dynamic by just creating a dynamic bone property and dragging the bone into the root slot.
All right. How about the hair?
The hair. Now, in this case, I don't think you have any hair bones set up on this model. So there's no way to make the hair dynamic.
Oh.
Yeah. That's the unfortunate
It's fine.
That's the unfortunate truth about dynamic bones is they can only make dynamic what already has a bone. So that's part of model making though, is you need to have your model maker create a bone for anything that you want to wobble.
Mm-hmm.
And that's dynamic bones once again. Was there anything else you were lost about? Either one of you?
Not me. No.
All right.
Oh, the jiggly bot.
The jiggly butt. Yes. I have that set up on this one. Using Phys bones.
On where? Oh, I
Yep.
see.
The butt bone. Just add dynamic bone, and there you go. Ah,
There it is.
yes, indeed. Was there anything else that I needed to go over? I don't think there is. Um, oh, if in Unity you folks want to change the way the textures are on an avatar, first you need to extract the materials. The materials you would choose you organize my thoughts. you you click on the actual FBX file or model file, whatever it is, here in the project area, and go to the materials tab instead of the model or rig, and just click extract materials. And then I recommend creating a different folder called textures to put it in. That way it doesn't clutter up the main folder. And it'll extract all those different materials into there. So that now, when you go into that folder, you can go ahead and choose how to fix different things. For example, I can make your body red by choosing that on the color slider. I could change your texture entirely by dragging and dropping a different texture file into the slot for the texture file.
Oh no.
Of course, we don't want to do that. We want it to be as it is. Also, a quick note: most most materials, for some reason, when they come out of a model, they don't start with. They start off a little bit grayed, so you want to go ahead into these materials, which are all these sphere values, and set them from gray here all the way to pure white up in the top left. So you just click that, drag it up to the top left. That way everything is as bright as it's supposed to be. Otherwise things are going to be a little bit darker than they should be.
All right.
Yep. That's just a general tip for folks. And yeah. And for, of course, changing the textures, these are regular old PNG files, as you can see. You just open these up in Photoshop or whatever image editor you want, and you can draw on them, change them however they want, and that'll show up on the avatars. And that's how you would change a texture if you wanted to. I think that's about all that really needs covering. So, yeah. Happy modeling, folks. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave them in a comment below on the video. I'll answer things if need be, or other people will. And enjoy Vrchat. Check out some of my Vrchat worlds, including Iron Guts Avatar Collection and the Heavier Buffet, which is the home of Fat Furs on Vrchat. Thank you very much, and have a good one.